What if I told you the United States didn't become a superpower because of freedom, democracy, or hard work? What if the real reason was dirt, rivers, and oceans? Not ideology, not values, but geography. Today, we're uncovering the hidden force that quietly built the American empire, and why no nation in history has ever had an advantage like this. We're taught a comforting story about American power, that the United States rose because of its ideals, democracy, liberty, and the Protestant work ethic. And while those things mattered, they were never the deciding factor. If you truly want to understand why America dominates the world, you don't need to study political theory. You need to study a map. The American superpower was not engineered by ideology. It was gifted by geology. The North American continent is the most perfectly designed piece of land on Earth for generating wealth and power. If human history were a strategy game, and you could choose any starting location, you would pick the American Midwest every single time. To understand why, we need to talk about the physics of wealth. For most of human civilization, the biggest obstacle to economic growth wasn't intelligence or ambition, it was transportation. Before engines and highways, moving heavy goods over land was brutally expensive. Grain, timber, coal, anything heavy had to be dragged by animals. And animals had to be fed. If you tried to move crops more than about 100 miles by land, the horses would literally eat the profit. Water changed everything. Floating goods down a river costs almost nothing. The current does the work. Even moving upstream requires only a fraction of the energy needed to haul a cart across dirt roads. This brings us to America's real killer advantage. The United States controls the largest and most interconnected system of navigable rivers on Earth. The Mississippi, Missouri, Ohio, Arkansas, and Tennessee rivers form a massive natural highway system. And these rivers connect directly to the largest continuous stretch of fertile farmland on the planet, the American Midwest. This is a geographic miracle. In Russia, rivers freeze for half the year or flow into the Arctic. In Africa, waterfalls and escarpments make rivers unusable. In Europe, major rivers are fragmented or politically constrained. But in America, the rivers flow south through fertile farmland straight into the Gulf of Mexico and the global ocean. In the 1800s, an American farmer could ship corn from the Midwest to London cheaper than a Russian farmer could ship wheat to Moscow. Nature had already built America a superhighway. Surrounding this river system is a massive flat plain with topsoil measured in feet, not inches. This land became the breadbasket of the world. Food security is the foundation of political stability. Most nations spend centuries worrying about famine. The United States produces so much food that its biggest health problem is obesity. Because food was cheap and abundant, Americans could spend money on factories, education, and innovation. And because transport costs were low, industrialization moved inland instead of staying on the coast. Steel rose in Pittsburgh, where rivers met. Chicago became a hub for meat, grain, and rail. The internal cost of doing business in America was lower than anywhere else on Earth. Then there is security. Geopolitically, the United States is an island fortress. Two massive oceans protect it on both sides. To the north is Canada, friendly and resource-rich. To the south is Mexico, separated by deserts and far weaker militarily. For centuries, European powers lived in constant danger. Enemies were always next door. They spent enormous portions of their wealth just surviving. America didn't have to. While Europe burned its capital in wars, the United States built factories. While others rebuilt cities every few decades, American cities were never bombed. This safety allowed Americans to focus on commerce instead of survival. Then there are the resources. Most nations face a trade-off. They are either resource-rich and unstable, or resource-poor and efficient. The United States is the rare exception. It has massive oil and gas reserves, coal, iron ore, copper, and gold. From Appalachia to Texas to Minnesota, America holds everything it needs. If the rest of the world disappeared tomorrow, the United States could still feed itself, power itself, and defend itself. No empire in history, not Rome, not Britain, not the Soviet Union, had this level of independence. America trades because it wants to, not because it has to. This geographic advantage created a culture of confidence. When transport is cheap, food is abundant, and borders are secure, a nation can survive mistakes, civil wars, depressions, political failures. The land itself absorbs the shock. By the early 20th century, this machine was fully operational. The United States had the world's largest economy before it even had a serious army. It was a superpower in waiting. But geography only gets you to the starting line. To dominate the world, your rivals must fall. Between 1914 and 1945, Europe didn't just make mistakes, it committed suicide. World War I drained Europe's gold and wealth straight into American hands. Britain and France paid for weapons and food with gold, then debt, then assets. By the end of the war, Wall Street replaced London as the financial center of the world. World War II finished the job. Europe was rubble. Empires were bankrupt. Factories were destroyed. The United States emerged untouched and twice as strong. The most important victory didn't happen on a battlefield. It happened in a quiet hotel in New Hampshire. At Bretton Woods, the United States rewrote the global financial system. The dollar became the center of global trade. The world ran on American money, and America built an empire not through conquest, but through invitation. Security in exchange for loyalty. Markets in exchange for alignment. The world needed dollars. America printed them. The Cold War forced the United States to innovate at scale. The government became the greatest venture capitalist in history. Military research gave us the internet, GPS, microchips, Silicon Valley. The Soviet Union couldn't compete. By the 1980s, the outcome was inevitable. The Berlin Wall didn't fall to bombs. It fell to prosperity. When the Soviet Union collapsed, the United States entered a unipolar moment. One power, one currency, one navy ruling the oceans. Today, that moment is ending. China is powerful, but geographically trapped. Its trade routes are boxed in. Its energy depends on vulnerable sea lanes. The United States still controls the oceans, and now, thanks to shale oil, it controls its own energy too. Geology is once again on America's side. So is the American era over? Despite debt, division, and chaos, the fundamentals remain. The rivers still flow. The soil is still fertile. The oceans still protect. Innovation still concentrates in American cities. China must fight geography to rise. America only has to not destroy itself. The United States was dealt a royal flush by geography. It played that hand ruthlessly in the 20th century and still holds more chips than anyone else at the table. But history shows empires don't usually fall from outside attack. They collapse from internal mistakes. In the next video, we'll uncover one of the darkest chapters in American history, when the government seized citizens' gold and set a precedent that still exists today. If you value real history, without filters, hit like to keep this signal alive. Subscribe so you don't miss what they never taught you in school. Because power never disappears. It just changes hands.